Let me tell you something that nobody wants to admit. Getting married is one of the biggest financial decisions you'll ever make, and most people walk into it completely unprepared. They're busy planning the wedding, arguing about centerpieces, and somehow convincing themselves that love conquers all, including six-figure student loan debt and zero emergency savings. Meanwhile, you're probably wondering if you should be doing something different with your money before you tie the knot, or if you're destined to become one of those couples who fight about finances every single month for the next 40 years. Here's what might shock you. The investment moves you make before marriage will determine whether you spend your married life building wealth together or just surviving paycheck to paycheck while resenting each other. Most people get this completely backwards. They think marriage is about merging two lives and figuring out money later. That's like deciding to run a business together without ever discussing the business plan. My name is Bobby, and I spent way too much time analyzing why some couples thrive financially while others implode over money issues. If you're tired of watching couples around you struggle with financial stress, or you want to set yourself up for success before saying I do, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button because today we're talking about the 7 investment moves that can literally change your financial future as a married couple. Now, before we dive into these 7 game-changing moves, let me be crystal clear about something. I'm not a financial advisor, and this isn't financial advice. These are lessons I've learned from watching couples succeed and fail with money, including observations of both brilliant moves and spectacularly dumb ones. What I'm sharing with you today are the investment strategies that consistently show up in the lives of couples who build wealth together instead of fighting about money constantly. The reality is, most people approach marriage completely backwards financially. They think love is enough, that money doesn't matter, and that everything will just work itself out. But couples who understand how money works know that financial compatibility isn't about having the same income, it's about having aligned values and smart systems in place before you combine your lives. A solid financial foundation before marriage becomes the bedrock of decades of wealth building together. Ignoring these moves becomes the source of resentment that destroys relationships. So let's start with investment move number 1. And this might surprise you because it's not traditional investing. Eliminate all high-interest debt. Now, I know what you're thinking. Bobby, paying off debt isn't really an investment. But hear me out, because this is where most couples mess up their financial future before they even start. Debt is like carrying a backpack full of rocks while trying to run a marathon. You might be able to do it, but you're making everything exponentially harder than it needs to be. Credit card balances, personal loans, car payments on vehicles you can't afford, these financial anchors will drag down your marriage before it even begins. If you're paying 18% interest on credit card debt, that's an 18% guaranteed loss every single year. No investment can consistently beat that return, which means every dollar you put toward anything else while carrying high-interest debt is a terrible financial decision. And in marriage, your partner's debt becomes your problem too. That $30,000 in credit card debt your fiancé has isn't just their burden, it's now both of your burdens. It affects your ability to buy a house, save for retirement, and build the life you're imagining together. Here's what most people miss about debt elimination. It's not just about the math, it's about psychology and partnership. When you enter marriage debt-free or with a clear plan to eliminate debt quickly, you're demonstrating financial maturity and discipline. You're showing your partner that you're serious about building a future together. You're also avoiding one of the biggest sources of marital conflict. Money fights aren't usually about money. They're about values, priorities, and feeling like you're on the same team. Starting your marriage without the weight of high-interest debt means you can focus on building wealth instead of just surviving. The second investment move that can transform your married life is maxing out retirement contributions before you walk down the aisle. This is where compound interest becomes your secret weapon, and doing this before marriage gives you an incredible advantage. Let me show you some math that changes everything. If you max out a Roth IRA at $7,000 per year starting at age 25, and your investments grow at 10% annually, you'll have over $3.3 million by age 65. But here's where it gets interesting for couples. If both of you do this before getting married and continue throughout your marriage, you're looking at over $6 million in retirement savings. That's generational wealth created through consistent investing. The beauty of maximizing retirement contributions before marriage is that you establish the habit and the budget before you combine finances. Once you're used to living on your income minus retirement contributions, it becomes automatic. You never miss the money because you adjusted your lifestyle before marriage. Plus, retirement accounts are often protected in ways that regular investment accounts aren't. They have legal protections, tax advantages, and forced discipline built in. If you max these out before marriage, you're not just investing, you're building a safety net that will support both of you for decades. The key is to make this non-negotiable. Before you spend money on an expensive wedding or a fancy honeymoon, make sure you're both maxing out retirement accounts. Future you will thank present you for making this priority clear from the start. Investment move number 3 is something most people completely overlook. Invest in a prenuptial agreement or, at minimum, comprehensive financial planning together. Now, I know this sounds unromantic and might make you uncomfortable, but hear me out because this is actually one of the most loving things you can do for your future spouse and yourself. A prenup isn't about planning for divorce. It's about having honest conversations about money before emotions and legal complications get involved. It forces you to discuss assets, debts, financial expectations, and how you'll handle money as a married couple. These conversations are invaluable regardless of whether you actually sign a prenup. Most couples spend more time planning their wedding than discussing their financial future together. They know what flavor cake they want but have no idea how their partner feels about investing, risk, and long-term financial goals. The smart move is to sit down with a financial planner before marriage and create a comprehensive financial plan together. Discuss everything: how you'll handle joint versus separate accounts, who pays for what, how you'll make investment decisions, what your retirement goals look like, whether you want kids and how much they'll cost, how you'll handle family financial obligations. These conversations review compatibility issues before they become marriage-ending problems. And if you discover you're fundamentally incompatible financially, better to know that before the wedding than after. The cost of a financial planner or prenuptial attorney is nothing compared to the cost of divorce or decades of financial conflict. So let's start with investment move number 4. And this is the life-changing investment move that most people blow right past. Build an emergency fund of at least 6 months of expenses before you get married. This is honestly one of the most powerful investments you can make, because financial security creates relationship security. A proper emergency fund isn't just for emergencies, it's for peace of mind, flexibility, and the ability to take calculated risks together. When you have 6 months of expenses saved, you're not desperate. You can leave a toxic job without panicking. You can handle unexpected medical bills without going into debt. You can survive a layoff without your marriage collapsing under financial stress. The key is building this before marriage, so you're starting from a position of strength. Most couples get married and immediately face financial stress because they spent everything on the wedding and have zero cushion for real life. The smart approach is to make these 7 investment moves non-negotiable, even if it means delaying the wedding or having a smaller celebration. A strong financial foundation is the greatest wedding gift you can give yourselves. Look, you're getting married whether you make these moves or not. The only question is whether you'll build wealth together or spend your marriage stressed about money. These 7 investments aren't just about finances. They're about creating a partnership built on financial maturity, shared values, and a commitment to your future together. Make these moves before you say I do, and you'll spend your marriage building the life you want instead of just surviving. That's the real investment that matters.